everyone, Lawrence here from Unicorn Reviews with the Microsoft Surface Pro 3. This thing's ancient by today's standards. I bought this laptop back in September 2014, but I still think it's relevant to talk about this stuff from an extreme long-term review standpoint. So let's dive straight into it. First of all, the Surface Pro 3 is really expensive. So when I bought this thing back in 2014, I couldn't really afford the high-end model, so this is the cheapest option. So the i3 dual core with hyper-threading, a whopping 4 GB of RAM and 64 GB of storage. So you may wonder by now, why is there a little Velcro on the back of your device? Well, because I like to take my Samsung T5 and stick it to the rear to have some sort of storage, because yeah, Microsoft wasn't really, and still isn't, allowing users to go with an i3 combined with a terabyte of SSD storage, and upgradability is impossible unless if you actually cut out a hole somewhere over here to put a bigger SSD in. What really set the Surface devices apart back in the day was that it's effectively a tablet, so you can use it as a tablet, but there's also a keyboard, and I'm going to start by talking about this keyboard. This is the type cover. I have the red model here, and to be honest, to this day, it is still one of the best ultra-thin keyboards that I've ever used. The keys are so awesome on this keyboard. They sound good, they feel good, and they're just generally very intuitive to type on. They're nice and big. Everything's really lovely with the keys on this keyboard. You can also choose to lay it down completely flat, and when you do that, the keyboard is very stiff, but you can also put it up on a slight angle, and then it's a bit more flexible and a lot louder, because this is like a massive sound box, but still a really good keyboard. Now, the newer ones are Alcantara. This one is some other material, so the rear is also Alcantara. And as you can see, it does get a little bit dirty. So there was this basically a glue-on pen holder that you glued onto here, but it always comes loose and it just leaves some glue residue behind, and it gets some smudging. Also around the edges, it kind of gets a little bit dirty, but after 4 years of usage and 4 years in a backpack, I still think this one looks pretty clean. Something I don't like with these keyboards though is the touchpad area. My keyboard has the left click recessed too much, so it's sometimes stuck, and then you have to press it from the back like so to actually, unclick the left mouse button. It's a bit faulty there. I don't know if it's necessarily poor design, but that's kind of how it is with my keyboard. I really like how easy it is to attach it to your tablet, because this thing is like a fully functional x64 Windows tablet. It just snaps on like so, really easy. However, a lot of people have complained that because the keyboard is, there's no support here, people sometimes put these on their laps and then it just falls onto the ground, breaking everything. You have to use this little kickstand. Now, the kickstand, it's great in a lot of ways. However, it's not perfect. So it's quite loose after all these years. So the first few degrees are very loose with mine. There's some flex in there. It's a bit loud, as you can hear. And also, it's not quite stiff enough. So when you go into a position like this, it will actually lower itself. Now, I don't really think this is because mine is pretty old by now. It's always done this. And it's also not because I taped like a 50-gram SSD to the rear. It's still doing it right now, or just a little bit slower. So when it comes to that, it's not quite perfect. However, that's not what this device is about. You're usually just going to lay it down completely like so, and just write on it with a pen. And that's the next thing. I've been using this one to take notes in class. I've always been writing on the screen with the pen, but the pen also isn't all that great. The battery life on it is horrible. Sometimes it connects, sometimes it doesn't, and then you have to unscrew it and close it up again, and then it will connect. Not really great. So we're starting to see a little bit of a theme here. Microsoft had a lot of really good ideas with the Surface Pros, and some of them are really well executed, others not so much. For example, the screen. Touchscreen, quite high resolution, but you couldn't get any decent graphics on this thing. It's always the Intel integrated graphics. Those work, they're good enough, but other than just your usual office work and perhaps some 2D games, you really can't do much with them. And so something I did with mine is actually create a display resolution a quarter of the original display size. And that actually allowed me to play a game like League of Legends at the very lowest settings at a somewhat playable 40 FPS. So it's not intended for gaming though. And I never bought this device with performance in mind. I knew it was going to be slow. I knew it wasn't going to be running games, editing videos. Some Photoshop work does work on here, but nothing too crazy. The reason I bought this is because it is super lightweight, super portable, easy to take notes on, be it with typing or with writing. You have cameras on there, so if you have to quickly take a picture of something in school, for example, and then put that picture into OneNote, annotate it with the pen, or just by typing in a text box next to it. That's why I bought this. I also did a lot of programming on this laptop, a lot of office work. And for all that stuff, it's awesome, but just don't expect insane performance out of a device that's, well, just look at how thin it is. Now, because of its size, another, I guess, issue, you could say, is the I/O, or the lack of it. Even the newest models don't have Type-C with Thunderbolt, which is a total shame. All you really get, and that's also true for the newer models, is a Type-A USB 3.0 port, a DisplayPort, well, mini DisplayPort, so you have to adapt it to HDMI to actually use it with a television, and a Surface charger port. Now, let me just grab the Surface charger. This thing is pretty small. They had some issues, as usual with the Surface lineup, with this cable. So this is a replacement cable, because apparently the previous one would make everything catch fire. And so this is the rest of the power brick. As you can see, super tiny little thing, about the size of your hand, and it comes with a magnetic attachment, so it will just find itself, just locate itself properly. You can put it with the cable up. You can also use it with the cable facing down. Mine, of course, has worn out a little bit over here near the connector, and these things are expensive. I think they're like 45 euros to replace what is effectively a phone charger. Talking about phone charging, there is a USB charge port on there, but you cannot charge the Surface and a USB device at the same time for God knows what reason, because this thing is just not powerful enough. But yeah, it's handy that it just detaches like so. Talking about other ports, a headphone jack, awesome, and also hardware volume buttons, really like these. And then on the top there's the power button. Let's open the device up again, because there is more stuff to talk about. During the lifespan of this product, there have been many issues. Some of them were design issues, like the pen not fitting on there, to the point where I have no clue where the pen is at the moment, because I keep losing it and it's too expensive to replace. Also, there have been a lot of issues with the display. Some Surface products have not had working displays, or they would start flickering, stuff like that. There have been battery issues where battery life is completely unpredictable. Sometimes it will last, even with this one, it'll sometimes last me 6-7 hours. Other times I charge it and 2 hours later, battery's dead. I've done a lot of software reinstalls. I think it's almost a hardware issue where the battery just isn't calibrated properly. I don't know. More issues, and probably the most annoying one, as I'll discuss a little bit later, is the Wi-Fi. These Surface devices, at least the Pro 3, uses a really cheap Marvel Wi-Fi dual band controller. And it's slow Wi-Fi, it's not very stable Wi-Fi, and the reception isn't very good on it. So what I, of course, do with this Surface Pro, being that it's so unpowerful, I always use it to remotely access my workstation, be it from here, downstairs, or from school, for example, or wherever in the world I am. I can use this one to RDP into my desktop. And for that, having a good Wi-Fi connection is very important. Also when you're using NAS storage, but the speeds aren't there, the latency is horrible, and it just refuses to connect sometimes, and you have to turn it off and back on again. That said though, Microsoft has been, I think, really good about fixing all these issues. This, for example, is not my original first Surface Pro 3. I actually had a replacement because when it came out, it was running Windows 8.0. I upgraded it to Windows 10 with like an early access thing and completely bricked the device, which you could say is my fault, but Microsoft was very cool about it. They just sent me a new one, and once I received the new one, I just sent them the old one back. So that was really nice of Microsoft. Same with the cables that would catch fire, they just send you a new one. Now, they won't send me a new one or a new charge brick right now because this thing is 4 years old by now. Also, no real complaints about the price because you don't pay this one as performance per dollar. If you were looking at it from a performance per dollar standpoint, this is probably the worst device in the world to buy. What you pay for is usability, and let me tell you guys, usability is great. You can use it like so as a laptop, you can put it like so in tent mode, or you can just use it as a tablet. And this really, as I said at the beginning of this video, changed laptops. I mean, just think back 4 or 5 years ago what a laptop looked like. They were all way bulkier, way heavier, and this one is still heavy, like it's not a comfortable tablet to use. But they did change an awful lot of stuff. And that's, I think, what the Surface lineup was meant to do. It was just meant to show just how awesome Windows, especially 8 and now 10, can be with the right hardware. So not some cheap plasticky laptop, but actually a good, well-built magnesium unibody design. And as you can see, mine has a lot of battle scars on it. I dropped this thing so many times. There's a massive cut in here, but not completely through the metal. A lot of minor scratches as well, but it's still working as well as it did on day one, except for the battery stuff. Anyway guys, that was it for me today. Let me know if you like this video. I know it's something completely different. It's not like a normal review with a lot of fancy B-roll and testing and all that sort of stuff. I haven't even mentioned performance numbers, but if you like this sort of extremely long-term use, just let me know, because I have a lot of other stuff that I would really like to make a video about. Anyway, if you like my content, I have more of it on Twitter and on Instagram, but mostly check out the Instagram because Twitter is just ranting about my ISP. And if you want to get instant updates whenever a new video goes live, which is on Friday 7, just hit the bell icon and the subscribe button so you won't miss any future video. But for now, massive thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week.